50 years ago, I never thought much about retirement. It was always something that would eventually get here, but it was off in the distant future someplace. So I really never thought much about it. But for me and for others, the distant future is now close at hand. I just attended a pre-retirement planning seminar in April. Our denominations, our conference director says about 3 years out you should attend, and then the year of your retirement you should attend again. So in April, Don and I were in Charleston attending a pre-retirement seminar. Through the conference and through the denomination, my investments are now in low-risk categories. And retirement is only 2 years and 11 months away as of today. 2 years and 11 months as of today. You know, many of us are concerned about our retirement, about whether we've saved enough money to live comfortably through our final years. And we wonder, are IRAs large enough? Are our investment portfolios diversified enough? And ultimately, will we run out of money before we run out of life? You know, retirement planning is certainly a legitimate concern. But today's lesson from Luke points us toward a different issue. One we might call expired planning. Now, this is a form of planning that looks toward death, not life. And it asks, are you ready to expire, not to retire? Are you ready to expire? And so Jesus tells us, and Micah shared with us this morning as well as Wayne, the parable of the rich man whose land had produced abundantly and whose first century IRAs were fully funded. His barns were bursting with produce from the fields. What should I do, he asks, for I have no place to store my crops. Everything's full. So he decides to pull down his barns and build bigger ones, so that in retirement he can relax, eat, drink, and be merry. But God had little plan and little regard for those plans. For this rich man, he says, you fool, you fool. This very night your life is being demanded of you. And the things that you have prepared, whose will they be? Whose will they be? You're dying tonight. Who are these full barns going to belong to tomorrow morning? The rich man clearly should have done some expirement planning along with his retirement plan. And Jesus concludes the parable by predicting the same fate for any people who store up treasures for themselves but are not rich toward God. And he urges us to be as ready to expire as we are to retire. Jesus calls each one of us to be rich toward God and prepared for the end of this life. So what might this sort of retirement, expirement planning involve? Step one, a realization that wealth is not happiness. realization that wealth is not happiness. Despite the many times that we say, the many times we have heard, wealth doesn't buy happiness, most of us still believe if we only had more money, we'd be happy. I just saw on Facebook this morning, I popped it on here, one individual won the Powerball last night. $478 million. One person. So this type, if I only had more money, I'd be happy, is what makes the lottery and Powerball so popular. Let's face it. If we make $25,000 a year, we're sure that true joy will come with a salary of $50,000 a year. If we earn an annual salary of $100,000, we're convinced that all our needs will be met with an income of $200,000. The sad truth is, no amount of money can guarantee happiness. Not even hundreds of thousands of dollars a year are a cure for misery. They are not a cure for misery. I've seen some very wealthy people who suddenly become what Jesus calls the least of these. They become terminally or seriously ill, and their money cannot purchase them the health that has been lost. And Jesus says, you're one of the sick, and you're one of the least of these. You should be visiting the sick and the poor and the naked and the person in prison and the hungry. You should be giving a cold cup of water to the thirsty. Money is no cure for misery. I recently read an article about two college classmates who reconnected 30 years after graduation. And one of them was a New York businessman. And this businessman began to cry on his classmate's shoulder. And he says, I'm nothing. You understand? I am nothing. I earn $250,000 a year, but it's nothing. And I'm a nobody. And the businessman's despair struck his classmate as being rather grotesque. After all, if the average American family of four earns an annual income in the tens of thousands, how can he possibly feel deprived? But when the businessman listed his expenses, a Park Avenue apartment, private school tuitions, taxes, salaries for a maid and a part-time laundress, the total came to $300,400. He was clearly going broke on an income of $250,000 a year. As it is, said the businessman, I live like an animal. I eat tuna fish out of cans and hope that when the phone rings, it isn't a bill collector. And his classmate said he might have been pulling down $250,000 a year, but he had the look of a man being followed by the police. Expirement planning should include the realization that money can buy Park Avenue apartments, but not peace of mind. Step 2. A decision to share resources, not hoard. Not getting into particulars, but some years ago I met a woman whose husband had died recently, leaving her his oil and gas business. She invested wisely, paid her employees well, and the business prospered. A more affluent neighborhood, a bigger home, and a luxury car weren't in her plans. See, she lived across the street from a low-income housing project. And few knew of the children she clothed, the school supplies she bought, and the families and children that she helped in other ways. See, a good experiment planner knows that resources should be shared and not hoarded. Abundant harvests invite gift giving, not barn building or profit taking. She had the opportunity to store up treasure for herself, but she decided to offer some of her wealth to help others. This act didn't impoverish her, but instead it made her rich. Rich toward God. Such generosity is good planning for anyone who wants to be prepared for the end of life. Step 3, a commitment to serve God instead of money. The author Robert Fulghum has written a series of best-selling books, beginning with one called All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. Well over 14 million copies of his books have been published in 27 languages and in 93 countries. Needless to say, he's done very well financially. In an interview in a Christian periodical, Fulghum reports that since his success, people are saying, well, you must have a big house and a big car. He responds, no, I have the same house, the same car, the same friends, the same wife. You see, he's on guard against all kinds of greed and is committed to serving God, not money. Of course, fame is a challenge, he admits, and the challenge is to be a good steward with his authority and power, especially with economics. So one year he did a book tour, and he used it to raise $670,000 for a number of good causes. And he says, I don't think you should give me extra credit for doing that. I think you should think ill of me if I didn't do it. And I might sound like someone who was maybe raised on 8th Street here in Glendale. Death doesn't scare Robert Fulghum. In fact, he has already picked out his grave. And he likes to visit it. It reminds him to live life in a way that's rich toward God, he says. And when he sees it, he says to himself, don't get lost here. You know where you're going. Those who found ways to serve God have discovered the right path. They need not fear death because they know where they're going. Their treasure is waiting for them in heaven, not in barns or bank accounts. Is this the year that you really start saving money? The answer to that question may help you with your retirement planning. But it gets you nowhere with your expiring plan. Perhaps a better question is this. Is this the moment you finally start to share your resources rather than hoard them? Is this the moment that you decide to serve the divine rather than the dollar? Becoming rich toward God requires a fundamental attitude adjustment about material wealth. It really does. So why not sit down, put a pencil to paper, and ask yourself if you're able to share more with the needy than up to this point you have. Ask if your life in all its multifaceted, multitasking glory reflects the priorities God would like you to have. Has making a living kept you from serving your living Maker? When you get involved in this kind of financial planning, you'll be rich at me, rich toward God, and rich toward others. May it be so with us. I look around the congregation and I see retirees sitting in the congregation. I'll join you one day. 2 years and 11 months from today. I'll join you. I see a lot of folks who haven't retired and who, believe it or not, I was as young as at one point in my life. Retirement and expirement weren't any place in my plan. But we know full well 16-year-old grandson just expired. And that could be any one of us as well. So as we're building our IRAs and our portfolios, our pension plans, whatever, we need to be prepared to meet the Lord this way. So may it be so with us. In our retirement planning, in our retirement, in our work of making a living, may we make room